Hello and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Alyssa, I don't mean to alarm you, but what happened to all the CDs?
They're in my basement.
No, I mean like people used to have entire pieces of furniture designed to store and hold CDs. I used to have books and books and books of them.
Of course.
What happened to, where are they?
They stopped making CD players in cars, and so they just stopped making CDs.
No, but the physical CDs, like they were manufactured and something happened to them. Where are they?
Erin? Someone alert 2020. We need a docu-series on this. Where did they all go?
There's an entire land of CDs somewhere. There's an entire continent made of them, I bet.
You know, I haven't thought about that old Jethro Tull CD in a long time.
We would get them in the mail. We would get them in the mail.
Remember, what was that thing called where you got looped into the scam where they would send you, like, you'd pay $1 and then you'd get them? 99
cents for 10 CDs or something like that.
But it wasn't 99 cents for 10
There's
CDs.
so many that were made, and where are they? Anyway,
where are they?
I am completely sober right now, but that is what woke me up this morning.
You know what?
Being like,
maybe we'll figure this out during spooky season.
Maybe. All right. Some news to get to this week. Happy solstice.
Yeah, thanks.
Equinox? It's equinox. Moon. Is it equinox?
Equinox.
Yes, happy equinox. Yeah. And I don't mean the gym that smells like eucalyptus.
No, we don't do that.
I used to.
Me too, but not anymore.
I worked somewhere that gave me a membership to the Equinox in Soho, which was a scene.
Wait, do you realize that we probably were there at the same time and didn't know it?
That would have been crazy. I wonder how many times in life we were like two little dots on a map that
now
were
look at
like
us. Joined together forever.
Indeed. Well, let's start the news this week. It's not necessarily a high note, but it's so silly that it feels like a high note. So let's take a quick listen to something that was on television this week.
I mean, just last month, 2,000 pounds of fentanyl came across our border. That could kill 500 million people. We're coming into Halloween. Every mom in the country right now is worried, what if this gets into my kid's Halloween basket?
You're talking about the rainbow
fentanyl. What if my teenager gets this?
That was RNC chair Ronna McDaniel, formerly known as Ronna Romney McDaniel. Until her last name proved irksome to Donald Trump, which means I think we should call her Romna Romney McRomney. That's her introducing this year's new Halloween urban legend just in time for spooky season. Alyssa, are you worried about the rainbow fentanyl going in Halloween baskets?
I'm not worried about the rainbow fentanyl in the hollowed out pumpkins.
Yeah, what is it with conservative moms that seem like they would be no fun thinking that people are going to give out free drugs on Halloween to children?
You know what? It just makes me think of that meme that was going around last week with Hallie, the new Little Mermaid, and Permit Patty with the scuba equipment trying to call the police on her. That's just, to me, that is the essence of the Romney Romneys of the world.
Do you think that the rainbow descriptor is designed to like low-key signify to the Fox News audience that this fentanyl will make you gay?
I mean, of course it is. There is nothing subtle about these nuts.
Oh, man. Well, rainbow fentanyl.
Rainbow fentanyl.
Will be joined in my Halloween basket by marijuana candy and magic mushroom chocolate. But people
think they're just giving away expensive drugs.
People would never. It's not a thing. But the good news is that I feel like that's sort of parenting, just a low level paranoia about bad people coming around and giving their kids drugs out of nowhere is the sort of thing that produces like prison abolitionists. Like her children are going to grow up to be far to the left. So
far.
I look forward to that. All right. Well, let's pivot into the news that doesn't involve made up Halloween urban legends. I'm going to talk a little bit about Florida's, can I call him a Trump fetus? He's like a fetus, but yeah.
Sure.
Ron DeSantis pulled a stunt on immigration this week that is gross, craven, and cruel. But I don't want to like skim over it and pretend it didn't happen. But we also should note the fact that this was designed to get immigration into the headlines and abortion out of the headlines.
Yep.
Because Republicans will lose the 2022 midterms on every level if abortion stays above the fold on page A1. So we're going to keep talking about abortion.
They can't stop us. They can't stop, won't stop.
Not yet. Not yet. There may be some legislation making it through different states to try and stop us or hire Yosemite Sam to arrest us or whatever. I don't know. None of these things make sense. Despite the fact that abortion has been pushed out of the headlines by this stunt, there are still abortion bans all over the place going into effect since Dobbs. So do you want to start with West Virginia?
Yeah.
What's going on in West Virginia?
Governor Jim Justice just last week signed into law a ban on abortion at all stages of pregnancy, Erin. No more abortion. Here's another thing. Will someone listen to us? There are exemptions for rape and incest. Erin, incest is rape. Like, why can't we just, it makes it sound like incest is different. Like maybe they consented, but because their dad did it, they can have an abortion. It's like, no, that's rape too. Okay. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I just had to say that. It's been a bee in my bonnet. Yeah. But here's the other thing. In cases of incest, they lift the restriction to 8 weeks for adult and 14 weeks for children.
That made me
What the fuck?
That made me need to get up and take a walk when I read that. Children. They're putting abortion restrictions on children. Children. So if you are a child and you become pregnant as the result of a crime, you have 14 weeks to work up the courage to figure out what's going on, tell a trusted adult who will know how to navigate the system, and have a terrifying medical procedure. Yep. Or you'll be forced to give birth, which is, of course, as we know, a super non-terrifying, low-effort experience that children should definitely be forced to do.
When so many of us have traumatic experiences, we know that our periods are always on time. I mean, it is like the craziest. This is the craziest. But Governor Jim Justice joins with Indiana and 12 other states who have banned abortion.
Yeah. And also, I want to revisit Lindsey Graham's extremely bad idea. You know, the first book in the Babysitters Club is called Christie's Great Idea.
Yeah.
I feel like
the opposite.
Lindsey's bad idea. The Baby Forcers Club. I'm totally.
That was unbelievable, Erin.
That was so stupid. I'm like, sorry, this has broken my brain. So Lindsey Graham's really bad idea, a nationwide abortion ban at 15 weeks, which, by the way, would not lift more restrictive abortion bans in states that have no exceptions abortion bans like the one in West Virginia we just discussed. It would just impose abortion bans on states that had tried to protect abortion rights.
Right.
So places like New York and California, are you safe? No.
Nope.
We're not safe. That's what we have been saying. We will continue to say it. We will keep saying it even as you walk away from us mid-conversation. We won't stop saying it. We'll keep saying it.
You're not safe.
So Graham's nationwide abortion ban, which is what Republicans have in the past supported. So even though Republicans are now distancing themselves from it, let's not pretend that this isn't what they'll do. This is exactly what they'll do. Okay. This law would also mandate transvaginal ultrasounds to people looking to have abortions because it would require that the healthcare provider performing the abortion would need to verify gestational age by measurements to avoid getting in legal trouble. And now I'm just going to say, in early pregnancy, a transvaginal ultrasound is fairly standard. It's like standard parts of care, but that's something that is a doctor's decision. It shouldn't be something that is mandated by the federal government by a bunch of guys who I'm just going to put it out there. I don't think Lindsey Graham has had that much experience with female
transvaginal ultrasounds.
Yeah. Or female reproductive anatomy in general. So this is something that doctors are saying would impose new restrictions on their ability to practice medicine in the way that they know to be appropriate for their patients. So that is also fucked up.
And Erin, what we have been saying on this show for, I don't know, years at this point, which is that the anti-abortion gang loves women having to go to the hospital, to clinics. They like to protest. They like to shame. And what this would do is kind of force that back, because by mandating essentially transvaginal ultrasound, it eliminates the ability to do medical abortions via telemedicine. And so we see you, Lindsay. We know what you're doing.
And also medical abortions, the kind that are non-surgical,
Right.
less dangerous than Tylenol.
Less dangerous than Tylenol.
Dangerous than Tylenol. Tylenol, as we've talked, surprisingly dangerous.
Yeah, you got to be careful with the Tylenol.
If you drink with it, that's like liver
Yikes.
poison. Very, very, very bad. But people can buy Tylenol at the store, and you can't buy abortion medicine at the store. You have to go to the doctor now, and they have to give you a transvaginal ultrasound if Lindsey Graham has his way. A little bit of good news out of Indiana. A judge is weighing a block on the state's new abortion ban. So that's something that we are keeping an eye on. In Ohio, what's going on in neighboring Ohio?
In Ohio, a Hamilton County judge plans to extend the order temporarily blocking the state's 6-week abortion ban past the initial 14-day deadline, because Hamilton County Police Court Judge Christian Jenkins is like, you guys, we're not there yet. Just explain further. So that's good. That means that right now people can still currently have abortions in Ohio.
Yeah, but unfortunately, there is a limit to how long a judge can do this. This is the last 14-day extension that he can do. But he's really doing as much as he can. Judge Christian Jenkins is doing
all we
as much
can
as
ask
he can.
for.
And for the people who are able to access abortion care, for the women that are pregnant who don't want to be pregnant, who are able to access abortions during these next 14 days, it makes a world of difference. And so good for him. I wish it wasn't like that for the rest of Ohioans moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to flag something that I read. Why am I using corporate speak?
Flag. Let's circle back.
Let's circle back around. So one of the things that we've also talked about on this show quite a bit is that Republicans will straight up lie about what they're trying to do, and then do it, and then say, haha, too bad we did it. So this is, here's an example. We don't want we're not going to do a nationwide abortion ban. This is something that should be left to the states. Haha, just kidding. That's what we are going to do. And then, if they actually do it, deal with it. That would be the line from them. One of the things they've been telling us, lying about, is that their aim in restricting abortion is never to punish women who have abortions, to never punish patients who have abortions. Turns out that is also a lie, as Maury would say.
Like they're telling on themselves now.
Yeah. So there's something called abortion abolitionists, and those are almost all men. Just gonna put that out there. Nothing creepier than a pro-life old man. This is a real gaggle of them. Creepy pro-life old men who want to punish women who have abortions in the same way that a person who drowned their baby would be punished, because they believe that abortion is murder, and thus it should be treated as murder by the women having them. This also would make doctors who help patients conceive via in vitro fertilization and destroy the embryos, that would also treat them as murderers. And so this is something that is happening.
One of these fuck that guys that we're talking about said, quote, women should embrace their instinctual sacrificial behavior. Erin, I had to reread that like a couple times. I'm like, what's he talking about?
Oh my God.
Yes. And what he went on to say is, if you and your baby were on a raft and had limited food, you wouldn't throw your baby overboard and drown it and keep the food for yourself. It's like that actually came out of his mouth. That is wild.
Okay. But here's the thing. In extremely desperate situations, people sometimes do that sort of thing. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get like too Pocahontas too here, but like Jamestown was a real terrible place.
It was not good. But also, what's he saying about men?
Yeah.
He's like,
what
women
are men's
would
responsibility
never.
here?
I mean, I guess men should never be left alone with babies in a raft.
Yeah. It's women's instinctual. I have never heard a man who so proudly misunderstands or has no awareness of how women feel. I feel like this is a man who would be absolutely devastated to learn that his mom's biggest achievement in life wasn't pushing him out. Like, like I think I told you this one time. But I was having a conversation with my husband once, who's a really good dude. You know, we take equal share of like parenting responsibilities. Like he's a very, in terms of like men that I'm co-parenting with and living in a home with, good guy. So I'm not trying to like pin this on him. But I said, isn't it funny that, moms end up usually doing most of the planning for children's birthday parties, and the day that their children are born are some of the most traumatic days of a woman's life. And Josh was like, yeah, but I think women like doing that stuff. And I was like, do they? And then I was like, I think there are a lot of men out there that would be absolutely devastated to learn that maybe their mom's favorite thing about being a person wasn't being their mommy.
Oh my God.
Like their entire sense of self is like, my mommy is just a mommy for me. She's my mommy forever. And yeah, anyway, that's a whole thing. That was a real side note, but whatever. Let's see. Oh, one more thing. We've got some new polling about abortion, and it is extremely interesting. Okay, new polling by Navigator has shown that levels of motivation to vote in the context of the Supreme Court overturning of Roe v. Wade remain just as high now as they did following the decision in early July. We're not forgetting.
No.
Not forgetting about this. Among independents, there is a 36-point pro-choice gap.
Really?
Yeah, 60% of independents call themselves pro-choice, 24% pro-life. Yeah, 16% don't know. How do you not know?
You know what? I respect people who are like, maybe those are all the people who we think shouldn't really have an opinion anyway.
That's true. I think sometimes saying like, I don't have enough information to form an opinion.
It's fine.
It's totally
fine. It's
fine.
better than defaulting to like, if I don't know, it must be bad.
Yeah, totally. Overall, people are much more motivated to vote than they were before the SCOTUS ruling. So hoping that this translates into the voting booth, and Find Out season will continue apace. We had some more stuff to talk about, but let's kick it to next week.
Yeah, next week's
we'll kick the tour de fuckery to next week and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to a woman who is literally going to be one of the last, I guess, defenses between one of America's greatest states and total anarchy.
Oh, can't wait.
And welcome back. I'm so excited about our guest today. Our guest today is Arizona's Democratic governor nominee. The Cook Political Report just rated the 2022 Arizona governor's race as the only red to blue toss-up race across all of the 50 states. So Arizonans, your vote really, really, really matters for this one. It always matters, but this time it really double plus extra super matters. She is also currently the Secretary of State in Arizona, where she oversees elections and business registrations, as well as runs the state library. Secretary Katie Hobbs, welcome to Hysteria.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So, Katie, as the current Secretary of State in Arizona, you've been on the front lines of disinformation and faced constant threats of violence and harassment for simply doing your job. So what made you take the leap and run for governor, one that would arguably only make the attacks intensify?
I get that question a lot, and I'll tell you that we are in such unprecedented times in our country with so much at stake. And I had gone through the ringer as Secretary of State, and so why not just put myself back out there again? But, I've talked to Arizonans across the state, and they are really tired of folks focusing on relitigating the 2020 election, putting Arizona in ground zero in this battle. And it's a distraction from focusing on real problems. And we have a lot of challenges we're facing as a state. We have a water crisis. We need to fix our neglected public education system. Those are things that are on the top of voters' minds. And they want someone who's got real solutions to tackle those issues. I'm talking to folks about how we can bring them together to solve these problems and move our state forward. And that's what I'm hearing from folks that they want.
So you want to actually govern instead of get in fights on Twitter with conservative gadflies. That sounds great.
Katie, you started your career as both a social worker and running a domestic violence shelter. And even before that, you helped unhoused youth. What about those experiences prompted you to run for office? And what changes have you seen in Arizona since getting into public service that you're most proud of?
Well, I'll tell you that I loved working with the folks I was working with and helping make a difference in their lives. I worked with unhoused youth. I worked with in the behavioral health system, and then eventually at a domestic violence shelter. And what I really saw was systemic issues that needed to be addressed, and our elected leaders not doing anything about those that would really make a difference for whole communities of people rather than just one individual at a time that I was working with. And so that's what prompted me to run for office. And, it was challenging when I got to the legislature. Democrats were in the minority and Republicans had a veto-proof supermajority. And I had to learn how to work across the aisle to get things done. In my work as a social worker, I wasn't focused on who was a Democrat or Republican and what beliefs we shared. We were just focused on solving the issues. And that's how I approached legislating, that if there was something that needed to get done and I could find common ground with Republicans to move that forward, then we could do that. And one of the things I'm most proud of is using my experience as a social worker to help highlight legislation that would bring a lot of stigma to people when programs that are supposed to help them have worked real hard to reduce that stigma. For example, food stamp benefits. There was a lot of legislation to try to bring back a lot of stigma to those programs. And we were able to highlight how that was not how the program was supposed to work and kill some of those bills. But the thing I think I'm most proud of is that we worked together, Republicans and Democrats, to pass Medicaid expansion in Arizona. That benefited over 500,000 Arizonans. We were the first Republican state to do that under the Affordable Care Act. And it not only helped those folks who needed access to healthcare, but it helped the economy. We were seeing a lot of rural hospitals facing potential closure because of uncompensated care. And hospitals are important parts of the community in rural areas, but they're also really important economic drivers. They're a job provider for lots of folks. And so that was a really big deal when we did that.
So pivoting to abortion access in Arizona, we saw this week that Emerson College did a poll that said 54% of Arizonans disapprove of overturning Roe. What is the state of abortion access in Arizona as we speak today? Can you explain to listeners how governors are kind of the last line of defense against radical anti-abortion laws right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to the states at this point. And Arizona has been one of the most egregious on abortion restriction. And we haven't had a governor who's been willing to veto increased restriction. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. But not only will I veto additional restriction, I'm going to fight for Arizonans and work to restore rights that we should have in terms of access to safe and legal abortion.
There's sort of a kind of battle in Arizona over abortion access. Can you go into a little bit what that looks like?
Yeah, so we have a 1901 law that was passed before we were even a state, before women even had the right to vote. And since Roe v. Wade, there's been an injunction on that, and the Attorney General went to court to lift that injunction. We are expecting the outcome of that case any day now. And what that would mean is that there's no legal abortion in the state of Arizona, and not any exceptions for rape or incest. It requires jail time for providers, and it would right now, because of the uncertainty, there are very few abortion providers even providing services right now. And that will completely go away. So, when Dobbs was first announced, every clinic canceled pending appointments, and it threw us into chaos, and people weren't able to get the healthcare that they needed. So that's what we're faced with right now. If that injunction is not lifted, well, regardless of who wins, there's going to be an appeal. So this won't be over as soon as we get the decision. But there also is the uncertainty of the law that was passed this last legislative session, which would go into effect on Saturday, and that is a 15-week ban, also with no exceptions for rape or incest.
Ugh.
Katie, you tout yourself as a fighter, as never backing down, but there's a lot of news in Arizona right now about how you won't debate Kari Lake. Why did you decide not to debate Kari? And what's an example of some wild shit she said?
Look, it is, I would love nothing more than the opportunity to have a substantive conversation about the issues, where we stand on them, how we contrast, and how we would govern. And what I know from this campaign and the way Kari Lake is conducting herself is that she's not capable of having that conversation. And I refuse to give her a platform to continue her election denial conspiracy theories and attack me and make it into a circus that, quite frankly, the GOP primary debate was a circus for our state and an embarrassment. And I'm not going to be a part of that. She, in terms of the crazy things that she said, she continually calls for my arrest. I don't even know why I would give her a platform to do that.
Oh my gosh.
And for these unfounded claims that there's no evidence for. And so, in addition to that, though, it's not just that she says crazy things, that she is comfortable cozying up to Nazis and spewing dangerous conspiracy theories. It's the policies, and I say policy very loosely because these are not real policies, but she wants to put government cameras in every classroom, which would open up our kids to stalkers and big tech and Big Brother spying on them. She thinks that everyday Arizonans should own rocket launchers.
Oh.
And when given a chance to back away from this position, she actually doubled down on it and thought it was funny. And it sounds funny, but rocket launchers are designed to fight tanks and heavy artillery, and they don't belong anywhere near the hands of everyday people, especially not dangerous criminals. She has called for dismantling the nation's top law enforcement agency. This is following the court-ordered search of Mar-a-Lago. She has called for Arizona to secede from the Union, setting up another civil war. And she has said that on day one of her administration, she would declare an invasion at the southern border, which would do nothing to change border security, but it would throw our state into chaos. And then just back on the issue of abortion, she is fully in support of not just this full and complete ban in the 1901 law, but also a Texas-style law that turns people into vigilantes going after abortion seekers, providers, and facilitators, and has called people who seek abortion murderers.
Oh, well, the only
is that all?
That's it. She's an SB8 enthusiast. The only follow-up to that I can possibly think of is how can our listeners support your campaign?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. So folks can go to katiehobbs.org. You'll not only see a way to support the campaign, and if you're out of state and you want to help with phone banks, we can set you up with that. There's a volunteer link. There's a store with some really cool merch, but also you can find all of our plans that we're offering for the challenges that we're facing as a state and what we're going to do about it when we get to the governor's office.
Awesome.
So, Katie, we always like to end on a high note. What is bringing you joy on the campaign trail?
The fact that there are 48 days left, and then we can get to the real work. But I love campaigning. It does get tiring after a while, but I know that this race is about so much more than me. It is so many people's hopes and dreams for their future in the state of Arizona are resting on this race, and it's that important. And so hearing that from people is what keeps me going, knowing that we have to stay focused on what we're in this race for. So
that's great. Katie Hobbs, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck. We're all going to be keeping an eye on Arizona and hoping they do the right thing.
Thank you so much.